I'd like to call to order the Winchester Planning Board meeting for Tuesday, February 10th, 2026. My name is Brian Vernalia. We will have really only one agenda item, which is to continue our public hearing on special permit PB 25-6. This is application for 33 Mount Vernon Street, nay 10 Converse Place, continuing special permit public hearing. We have nothing under regular business, and we would just follow. I'll give next meeting dates, and we'll have to work on those, and adjournment after that. So I would like, I never know. Do you need a motion to move into public hearing?
Yeah, we do.
Let's do one.
We're not going to regret over.
We're required.
Yeah, I'm always a little vague on that.
I will move that we move
open
into,
it, yeah.
that we go into public hearing.
Second.
I'd like a roll call. Nick?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, so we are in public hearing. I'd like to give people a little idea of how I'd like to run tonight's public hearing. We have, as those who followed along at our last meeting, we left with a discussion about whether there was a way to go to 5 stories versus 6 stories. So that's where we are going to start out this meeting. And with that, we'll be inviting Marty Jones, the chair of the Affordable Housing Trust, as well as Paul Agnabene, the owner, director, sorry, I'm losing my mind tonight, for Urban Spaces. After we hear from them, they have some findings that they're going to share with us. We're going to turn to Town Council Kate Connolly and ask for some opinions and questions for her. From there, we'll move to a discussion among the board. Hopefully, it'll be a thorough discussion. Before we deliberate, if there's something to deliberate on 5 or 6 stories, I'm going to welcome public comment for up to 30 minutes. I'm not going to put a time limit on any individual. However, we will have 30 minutes, at which time we'll finish public comment. We'll then move on to deliberating if there's something to deliberate regarding 5 versus 6 stories. I'd like to have a hard stop at 9:30 p.m. If we can help it. If we can't, we'll go longer, but I would really like that so that we can actually get some sleep. And if we have time, because we haven't finished yet, we can move back to finishing. There's several special permit areas that we have not completed. It's my
Site plan review.
Site plan review, thank you. It's my hope, by the way, I'm tired. It's my hope that we will be able to, at the end of this public hearing tonight, continue it to sometime later this month, ideally February 24th, but we have to all look at our calendars as well as the applicant. Potentially to, at that point in time, look at special permit review and potentially voting on the special permit. That would be my goal. And at the beginning of that meeting, if that's where we land at the end of this meeting, we'll allow, again, public comment at the beginning of that meeting so people can speak up at the beginning of that meeting before we move into deliberation on the special permit. So that's sort of what I have in mind for tonight. Does anybody on the board have anything else that they would like, any other way they'd like this to go that we can work on together?
No, I think that's a good plan. At some point, we have to fit in going through the zoning bylaw and just approving all the exceptions.
Yes.
So we have to go through that formality. So at some point, we have to fit it in. But that doesn't have to be tonight.
That would, in my imagination, that would be at the next meeting when we do special permit review and approve or consider, I should say, any waivers. Certainly waivers could change based on our conversation that we have tonight. So yes, we do need to do that, and that would hopefully be on the 24th if that works for all of us, but we need all 5 of us. No way we're having any public hearing without all 5 members of the board here, so we'll look at that toward the end of the meeting. So with that, I'd like to invite Marty and Paul to the table, if you're willing. Marty, I welcome you. I know that you have had some conversations with Paul, looking at various options of Well, I'll let you, I have no sense putting words in your mouth since you've been doing this work and I have been sitting aside not doing it. So I'd like to hear, hopefully, if you can help us. And Carrie, I know that you can help as well as far as anything that needs to get done.
I'll trust the experts, but I do want to quickly shout out Chris Scaletta, who also participated in the working group and is seated on the Affordable Housing Trust. He was a significant contributor to this effort, but we're in great hands.
Yeah, so I guess I just want to start. I assume every everybody, most people know that at your request, Brian, a working group was put together to look at the question of what the impact was of going from 6 stories to 5 stories on the affordable housing. And that working group that was put together included John and Carrie from the planning board, and Chris Galata from the Affordable Housing Trust, and myself, to try to dig in and meet with the applicant and see if we could understand the dynamics of what was going on with the project. I think at your last meeting, when the discussion revolved around reducing it to 5 stories, Urban Spaces said that meant they could only provide 2 units, 80%, and $100,000 payment in lieu as their affordable housing contribution, which obviously you all know is a long way from what's required by the bylaw itself. So we sat down, we met twice with Urban Spaces and their team. We met a couple of times ourselves independently. We did sign a confidentiality agreement regarding the details of the financial pro forma, which Paul and his team shared with us. So we had an opportunity to look at a high-level pro forma. I mean, this was not a detailed line-by-line, cost breakdown of the project, because it still is in preliminary stages. We haven't done construction documents and haven't gone through that. But at a high level, we were able to look at the cost, the revenue, and the rate of return on the project. And I think we understood the challenge because those 6-floor units obviously were large units. They had the cachet of being penthouse units. They had, we can all know, dynamite views in all directions, outdoor spaces, and they were a big revenue piece of the project, which to some extent, now the 5th floor is a penthouse, but it's not quite as exclusive because it is a full floor and it doesn't have the terraces and that kind of thing. So there is clearly a financial impact to that. We went back and forth. We asked a lot of questions. I think at a high level, we felt that the challenges were clear, and the rate of return that Paul shared his investors are looking for is what we see as current market conditions. They're not unreasonable returns for an investor to put money into a project like this, given the possible complexities and challenges that happen with development, markets, et cetera. We felt very strongly that we needed to find a way to at least preserve the 4 80% AMI units and try to come up with some ways to make that happen. We suggested looking at the plans again to see if we could come up with some additional units inside the existing building footprint, whether or not some of the commercial space could be repurposed to residential, whether or not the units could change somehow, and would that kind of make the numbers shake out a little differently. We looked at that, and Paul and his team went off and looked at the project. We, as a working group, introduced the possibility of adjusting the 2 120% units to 150% units. While that's not as deeply targeted affordability as we had hoped, we thought that it might be another way to kind of look at things differently, generate a little more revenue, and still have some income restricted units that over the long term would just be a different price point for people in town to be able to get into the building. So it was another idea we kind of threw on the table.
Could you repeat that? So people that, like our parents, for instance, that live in town?
Well, currently, there are 2 standards, right? The 80% units, 80% AMI, and 120% AMI is what's kind of outlined in the bylaw. We suggested, instead of the 120% units, keep the 80. Instead of the 120, raise that income standard, so there'd still be an income test, they would still be deed restricted, but there would be a higher income eligibility.
I see.
Which means the price they could pay would be a little higher.
So the missing middle, as it were.
A little higher in the missing middle
right.
than the 120.
Okay, great. Thank
Exactly. The other idea we put on the table was to look at sort of profit sharing. Is there a way that if prices exceed a certain threshold, could the town share in that as part of a payment in lieu and give some sharing in that? If there's an ability to go back to the landowner and reduce the land price, is there a way that we could share in that? So that there would be some benefits that could flow out of really working the project and seeing if that could work. Urban Spaces proposed a couple of things too. That the town waive the building permit fee, which has been done in some other projects in town. And suggested, when we got to a point where we could get the 80% units, suggested that we basically build in an idea of an option where if some of these savings come into play, the town could then buy those 150% units. So taking some of that sharing money, if I'm going too fast, slow down. But,
very helpful.
And feed those back into the project to make the numbers work for those. This all came together very quickly. Our last meeting was yesterday. Kind of been written up the terms of what this construct might look like. I think there's still some questions we probably would have to go back and forth about. But in light of the meeting tonight, it seemed like a good idea to show where we are at the moment and the direction that it looks like it's going, to be able to find a way to accommodate, obviously, a lot of different competing interests in town over this project that's been talked about for a long time. Obviously, with my affordable housing hat on, I hate to see any reduction in the standards that we laid out in the zoning, because I worry that the next person that comes into town will, not meet those requirements as well. And I think we really have to use the inclusionary zoning as a way to create affordable housing in town, because we don't have land available, we don't have a lot of excess town property, we don't have other sources that other communities have been able to use to create affordable housing. So these kinds of developments are really, really important, in my view, to increasing our affordable housing supply. So I guess I'll stop there, and if you have questions or where we go next.
Thank you. We will turn to Paul in a second, but I'll first see if there's any questions regarding anything that Marty just said. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking your time to help a different board. It means a lot, because I know you have a full plate on your own board, so I appreciate it. Are there any questions? This is basically outlined in the memo that you gave to us, but are there any questions for you? So I'll start. I do have a question. I think you said it in the memo, but I just want to make sure it's clear. It was your opinion and the opinion of the people who looked at this that a 5-story structure, roughly the confines of what we're talking about, would be economically infeasible to have the 4 affordable and 2 workforce units as described in the bylaws.
Right, to be fully compliant with
Yeah.
with the bylaws.
So, because that's one of the most important questions we had was, is it economically feasible or infeasible? So I appreciate that that was sort of what, that's not sort of the wishy-washy middle. Are there additional questions?
In case it's lingering on anyone, the commercial spaces ended up being retained.
Oh, that is important to know.
important.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I gathered, but maybe I should be more specific in a question. Other than the proposal, other than the number of units, which seems to have gone to 37, the number of affordable units, which seems to be 4 affordable, and some number of potential purchased workforce units, and the height. Is there anything else that I'm missing that somebody down the road will say, oh wow, we didn't realize that something else changed in the process that I'm missing? And I realize that's kind of open-ended, but like the parking is still unchanged, the exterior is still unchanged, the look of the outside building is still unchanged. That's your understanding of what you discussed. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's helpful.
Right.
So if there are no other questions, I'm just going to turn
Let's let Paul talk.
I'm going to turn to Paul because other side of the same coin, because you were in the same meetings. So I'd love your perspective on basically what was just said, but from your angle.
Thank you very much. So for the record, Paul Onyebeni, Urban Spaces. We had some very productive meetings, and everybody worked really hard in a short period of time to try to come up with a solution that we, I think, can say safely have come to and are pleased with. Of course, we'll see if you're pleased with it too, as the board that will ultimately decide. One just point of order. This memo, and it's on my apologies, we were rushing along. This one is slightly, has two typos in it. There's a more current one called, right after the date, it says V2E on it, and that's not this one. And I sent it very late, and so I'm sorry for that. But importantly, 3C in this memo is misstated. It should really just note the request to waive building permit fees. That wasn't supposed to become part of the place where it's in the other part of the memo. And then lastly, 4A is a typo. 510 should be 550. We can circulate after this to everyone the proper memo, but I discovered it after proofreading and preparing for the meeting, so I apologize for that.
A quick question under point number 2, 3 commercial condominiums?
The third commercial condominium is for the antenna.
And where would that be? On the roof?
It'll be on the roof and throughout the building as it needs certain mechanical areas.
Counts as a condominium.
That would be right, because our structure is all condominium. We have no other place to formulate that space if we didn't put it in a condominium.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Good. But as was noted, the 2 retail bays still exist. The one thing that has changed throughout the whole project is as we've pushed and pulled on the project and fine-tuned a little bit the parking grid and other aspects of the project, the whole unit mix, the square footages here and there have changed. In order to come up with more affordable units, in the same box, we ended up taking, for example, 2 larger 2-bedrooms and creating a 2-bedroom and 2 ones, or whatever the case may be. So you'll note that the unit matrix that we did provide in the graphics package, there's going to be slight differences in unit configurations and sizes, but it's all within the same exact envelope. So it was really a magnificent effort on the architect Hassin's team to basically kind of create some alchemy so we could create 4 affordable units, which was the real mission. With those caveats, I did just want to sort of build on the idea that we have been successful, I think, in finding a way to take the 6th floor off, have a 5th floor, 5-story building, and we have 4 affordable units that will be at the 80% AMI level. What is being given up in exchange for that height is the two workforce units. Instead of being guaranteed, they now become options that the Affordable Housing Trust, if all these other components are acceptable to the board, would be options for them to purchase. And the funding, the sources of those funds would be from some creative ideas that came about through these discussions, including, as was noted, a gross revenue share. And potentially, if we can get the land acquisition costs reduced by the owner, a share on that as well. So we pretty much just noted, that the one thing that's key here is that the building is now so tightly intertwined that the units that we selected, we think will they'll be representative of all the other units in the building, and we'll just need to work with DHCD with your support, ultimately, because they're not exactly what you would normally see. In a normal mix, if we had a 6-story building with the 6 units that we had proposed, the mix would have been a 3 here, a 2 there, a 1 there, this side of the building, that side of the building, up and down on the north and the south side. This is going to be a little more concentrated because it's the only place we could fit units where we could all make the numbers work. but they're going to be beautiful, affordable units. And they're, on the second floor, the third floor, the fifth floor. It's just not quite as spread out as you'd normally want to see in a normal situation. So we'll need your cover on that to help us with DHCD. And we've had that experience before. In Salem, we're working with the same representative from DHCD, and we were able to work it through because they primarily are wanting to just make sure the town's on board with the exceptions or the modifications. So
apropos to that, I don't, not to interrupt you, but I am. The selections that were put forward, were those something that you guys discussed in, okay. So there would be something that we would discuss, but ultimately, even if we say, yeah, those are great, we support it, it's up to EOHLC or whatever other body to say these are okay or these are not okay, and our support may have some weight and it may not. So I want to make sure we're all on the same page on that.
it's true, and if they don't support it, then everything falls apart from there. So my guess is that they will be supportive because their primary concerns, in our experience, and we have 100% affordable buildings and 25% affordable buildings, 15%, 20%, all the gamut. We understand the spirit of the and the goal of the ordinance is typically to just make sure that the units are like every other unit in the building. You can't have different level of finishes, for example, at least and you can actually in Boston, but not in many municipalities. And you can't have them like all bundled up together in one area of the building. Separate entrance issues, right? We don't do any of that. We did our best, but we were constrained. So I think that DHCD, and we'll have to find out for sure, but it's a contingency. If for some reason they were not accepting this, we'd be back to the drawing board.
That's helpful. Sorry, I interrupted you. You can continue if you have any more.
That was really it. I just I did want to, if just call your attention. We don't need to review this if it's not what you want to do. But we've provided a set of plans. You can see the unit matrix at your leisure, and you can see how things are shaping up. You can see what a 5-story building kind of looks like. Again, all subject to future discussions about design and materials. None of that goes away, and it just is something that puts us this much closer to the goal of having a smaller height building.
What is the height of, we've talked about it before, but just for the record, what is the height of this building to the top of finished building and to the top of mechanicals, if you have both of those?
I'm going to ask our illustrious architect if he...
59 feet to top of roof. We have, I think, a 2-foot parapet above that. Top of the mechanicals are drawn here. It's a screen that's about 5.5 feet above the roof, set back, towards the center of the roof. So visible from very far away, but not from these.
Okay. So what is the height, the top of that height that you see on that building right there, where you can see
62 feet.
62 feet is what you see at the top.
61 feet, which is a foot less than the telephone building.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any questions for Paul or Marty or both? So with that, I would like to turn to town council, who's had the opportunity, the very, very brief opportunity to see both the memos from you both, I believe, and get your thoughts on it as far as what we can waive, what we can't waive, what we would need to do to consider the legality of going ahead with a 5-story building under the rough confines of this that might change, obviously, after we have some discussion. So I'm sort of asking you for your preliminary thoughts about this, if you don't mind.
Certainly. Kate Connolly, Town Council. I did get Marty's memo from Jack's when I walked in tonight. I got the other one earlier today from Taylor. So I did have a chance to review it. Previously, I had provided the board with a memo which said that you do have discretionary authority to approve a reduction in affordable units and a payment in lieu. But based on proof of economic or infeasibility for building all the units, and it would also have to show that the payment in lieu would be in the best interest of the town. And you'd have to have specific findings of both of those things in order to withstand any sort of a challenge. The new proposal, which I got today, differs greatly, and again, I only reviewed it this afternoon, so I don't have a specific opinion whether it works or not, but I do have some general thoughts that originally the proposal was $100,000 total or $25,000 per unit for the 4 units of affordable housing that would not be provided, I believe. And we said in the memo, we still, at that point, would have needed additional information about proof of economic infeasibility. The way I read the new proposal, it's to make payments based on percentages and estimates for seemingly significantly more money. I could be wrong, but that's how I read it. And that's to keep the 4 required 80% AMI units, but a payment in lieu for the 2 workforce units. So this might be okay, but we still haven't been shown whether it's economically infeasible, and I know that's something that you would have to provide. My references to the zoning bylaw 7.3.19.4 provides that the fee for each affordable unit should be established by the special permit granting authority in the regulations. And in our regulations, we have in 6.4.3, it provides a valuation-based method whereby the payment per inclusionary units equals the difference between fair market value and the approved inclusionary price. The method here we're using for both, if I'm understanding it correctly, a condo and rental projects, with rental projects assuming for purposes of the valuation that the units would be sold rather than rented, if I'm getting that correct. So given all that, it's unclear if and how we can calculate the new estimates to fit into the above, into 643. So it may be that it's reasonable. It's kind of complex at this point to tell, and the dollar amounts did look much higher to me. But again, the board does have discretionary authority, provided you can make specific findings to withstand challenge, that putting all those units in would be economically infeasible, and that the payment in lieu is indeed in the best interest of the town. That's kind of a summary of my thoughts.
Well, that's helpful. Well, questions for you before we, a second. Questions from the board regarding that? So, go ahead.
Is there an impact on that criteria if we move from 120 to 150?
I didn't get into it that far. I don't know that there would be, but it's possible. The dollar amounts did look higher to me, which to me seemed good for them. If they're giving more money, then that provides, if it's going to the trust, wherever the money would go, they'd be able to provide affordable housing someplace else.
Great, thank
but
you.
But I don't know 120 versus 80, if that makes a difference. Maybe that's something the developer could.
I'm specifically asking about 150 because 150 is not the bylaw requirement. 120 is the bylaw requirement, which it sounds like we have discretionary interest, and I think there's obviously I was on the working group, a strong argument to be made that that's still economically an underserved, price point in town, but I defer to council.
So, go ahead.
Just something to think about.
Yeah, all right. I mean, you have to follow your own bylaw, so
Yeah.
it doesn't provide for.
But in a similar vein, where you point out quite correctly that the bylaw is very specific about the in-kind or in lieu payment, the arrangement that this working group came up with was rather novel. Would that satisfy the bylaw? The way it was contingent upon, gross revenue, et cetera, all the formula that's laid out here?
That was my exact question. But
Yeah, and honestly, I might defer to Taylor a little bit, but it seems like the bylaw provides for sort of a different way to calculate
Does it
it.
give us wiggle room, I guess, is what I'm asking?
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is we don't know yet.
Okay.
We need to do a little bit more work. We need to meet and have longer conversations about what is being proposed here, and if it is. I have no doubt that what is being proposed in good faith and is accurate, but the ability of the proposal to match what is allowed in our bylaws is still up in the air at this time. However, I don't think that that should stop this discussion. I think that we should continue on moving forward with the discussion, knowing that we will be, specifically me and town council and the applicant will be working on the back end to see if this is possible.
And since this is based, this entire discussion is based on numbers that kind of have yet to settle, what is the hard, is this at issuance of certificate of occupancy? Is this at issuance of building permit? Like, when do these numbers need to be assumed able to be whole?
Before issuance of the building permit, this should all be established.
Okay. Okay. That's tricky.
But before issuance of the building permit, we won't know the gross revenue.
I mean, I think we can all imagine that he draws the permits on February 28th of 2020. And, you know, let's just hope that was a one-time.
Okay, Paul, I know you had a question. I'm happy, and then we're going to have to have some discussion among ourselves, but I don't want to, this is important, so.
Perfect, thank you. Just two quick points. One is regarding the economic infeasibility. The project was economically feasible at 6 stories, and we were fully compliant with the bylaw providing 4 inclusionary and 2 workforce. Moving down to 5, I think the affordable group had determined that it is economically infeasible without adjusting. So all things equal, moving to 5 stories was not economically feasible. So I think that one standard has been met by in our discussions. The second thing I just wanted to question, you were noting some of the language there pertain to inclusionary units. My understanding of the definition is an inclusionary unit is an 80% AMI, and whereas a workforce unit is not an inclusionary unit and it's something higher, 120 or otherwise. Did you mention that the bylaw was referencing payments in lieu relative to not providing the appropriate number of inclusionary? Because we are. In that case, we're providing 4 inclusionary. We're not providing the 2 workforce. We just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, yeah, no, I believe I saw that.
Okay, because the way I thought we read the bylaw was that you have much more flexibility if it's workforce, whereas you have perhaps less flexibility if it's inclusionary, and we are meeting the standards under the inclusionary 4.
I just have a question. So it seems my read of the back and forth regarding infeasibility is that if we want the 5th floor, it's in our interest to have it ruled infeasible otherwise. Is that correct? I mean,
I think it's
It's
the
our
other way
obligation
around.
to engage in the negotiation in good faith as a planning board. If
Right.
that ends up squaring all the corners, great.
right, as long as it's in good faith.
I think it's the other way around. I think if it's determined to be infeasible,
Otherwise.
otherwise.
Right.
So that's why my question was, if it had been determined to be economically feasible, but the developer just didn't want to do it, then I think we would have our hands tied as far as saying, but you can still go to 5 stories, which is why it was so important to have Marty and Chris on this to look at that. So, because we know that 6 is feasible. They came to us with we hope it's feasible. We hope they don't go bankrupt in the process of doing it. We believe it's feasible, but they came to us with that. So we're basically looking at something that's feasible at 6 stories and infeasible with our current bylaw at 5 stories to match all of the inclusionary housing, both workforce and affordable. So that's my reading.
Question of semantics for Marty or for Kate. Is there a difference between inclusionary and income restricted?
I don't know the bylaw as well as you do, but I thought the bylaw required both, the 80 and the 120, so.
So income restricted refers to the 120, is that what you're saying? Or just for my own.
I don't know if there's a distinction, I don't.
I think it's
I hear both terms, and I don't know if there's a distinction between them.
I don't think inclusionary, in my mind, just means what the bylaw says you have to do.
Right.
Right, so if the bylaw says you have to do some 80% units and some 120% units, then I would think those are all inclusionary, but that's Kate's, determination if there's
No,
a
I
different
think you're right.
definition.
I don't have this bylaw completely down as well as I
You're excused.
will, but Yeah, I think it all depends on how your bylaw defines it.
Okay,
And,
just a small point, I was hearing both terms, and I wasn't sure if there was a difference.
yeah.
So I have a follow-up question for Kate, but you're in the middle of,
No, I was just looking at your definitions. Go ahead.
can the board finding, if we did so, that 5 stories was beneficial for the town as opposed to 6, can that be used as weight on reducing or waiving any amount of affordable housing?
It could, depending on what makes it beneficial for the town. Why is 5 better for the town than 6?
Okay.
I'm sure there are reasons, but
Okay.
you would just need to put that in the findings.
Okay. That's what I'm trying, because that's ultimately what the question is, how can we make it 1 story shorter?
Yeah, that judgment would.
There's 2 sets of people in town. There's people who care about if it's 6 stories and people who don't care. The people who care a lot.
Yeah.
And the people who don't care if it's 5 or 6.
Right.
So, we're trying to see if there's a way to do it at 5 stories, to really reach out to those people who do care. And the ones who don't care won't care either way.
Again, I think, I completely agree with you. I think it's at the end of the day, it's a subjective judgment in terms of whether or not it satisfies the needs of the town.
Yeah. Agreed. So I'm happy to kick them out and have a discussion among ourselves. I'm happy to
Break
keep them
anyone.
here and have a
Thank you
discussion.
both so much.
Yes, very much appreciated. I hope I was adequately appreciative, and not, because what I'd like to do is if we have any discussion we'd like to have, and if not, I would like to welcome public comment to start for a period of half hour, but I'd like to, if there's any questions or comments that we want to have discussion about this proposal, that we can do that now before we have public comment. The committee is quiet tonight.
No, my only comment is my appreciation for the work that this working group did. And I thank you, all of you, Marty and Chris and Carrie and John and Paul. Much appreciated. I know it was a tough assignment, and I'm pleased to see the offering here from both Paul and Marty. I appreciate it very much.
Agreed 100%. This was how to fit,
Square peg in a round hole,
I was going to say how to put 40 pounds of
Okay.
sand into a 20-pound bag.
whatever.
So I guess that what we'll do is move to public comment now, and then we'll come back and discuss and deliberate and see how we could possibly move forward right now. But I'd like to give the public an opportunity.
Question.
Yeah.
Before we
That's a-
proceed, so tonight, are there any checkbox votes that we have to go down, or any other business that we have to accomplish by the end of the night?
So my hope,
I mean, and I'm saying that with regard to where we want to place the public comment versus where we want to place the work that we have to get done.
so the reason I wanted the public comment now is I'd like to come back to this, and I'd like to get the sense of the board whether this 5-story proposal is an avenue we want to go down, and or if it's not an avenue, if we sit around the table and say, no, let's get rid of it, we don't need to spend any more time on this, we go back to 6-story. And I'd like to give the public a chance to speak on this because I'm sure they have an opinion on this, pro, con, whatever way. And I'd like to be able to hear from them so that we don't make a decision and they say, we never got a chance to opine on that before you made that decision. So I was really trying to be deferential to the public in that regard.
No, I agree with that. I mean, I've seen a lot come in. I've heard a lot. I've seen a lot come in, and I've heard a lot, more than the number of people that are here tonight, but I think it's still worthwhile to hear from you.
Yeah.
I think we need to get more.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And to be fair, the conversation of 6 to 5 had been sort of more esoteric.
Okay.
We didn't have 2 things on the table. Whether or not they're both viable, well, we know the 6-story is viable. We don't know the 5-story is viable, but we know that it's on the table as a direction to go. And if ultimately this board says that's the direction we should go, then we will put all of our effort into that and push the 6-story aside. If, however, the board says no, I mean, So,
And it might be worth recognizing before people make public comment, the fact that this building kind of sits in the middle of a weird teeter-totter where it's a PUD overlay, so we're asked to provide a significant amount of housing within a neighborhood that's on the National Historic Register. And that's why the debate on the fifth story is so sensitive, because the fifth story,
six-story.
the five-story building is closer to the scale of downtown, and the sixth story doesn't add a significant inventory of housing. And so that's the balancing act. So I'm just helping set the table for public comment. The board does appreciate that balancing act, and that was why we pursued this beneficial but time-consuming diversion.
And I think that's an important note, that the five-story, as envisioned here, actually has more units. It's got one more unit, which is not lost on me, that diversity of housing might actually be slightly larger in what is a smaller building.
Particularly for what's missing for inventory in town.
Exactly. So with,
That's helpful. Thank you.
so with that, my hope is to have public comment for a period of no more than 30 minutes. I don't want to limit anybody's individual public comment, so I won't. However, we will end, it's 7:44 right now, we'll end at 8:15. If you talk more, someone else will talk less. It would be my hope, although I cannot limit the content of public comment, that you might speak to the topic at hand, which is the sort of six-story versus five-story. You, of course, are free to speak to whatever you want, and I can't limit. All I can limit is time, place, and manner of public comment, not content. But it would be helpful for us if you do that. And the longer you talk, the less someone else can talk. So with that, I would just welcome people to raise their hand, come up to the table, sign there, state their name and address, and please give us a public comment. Come on up.
Thank you. My name is Jamie Duvall, and I'm at 7 Dix Terrace. And first, I'd like to thank everyone who's been working so hard, and I appreciate everyone who cares about affordable housing and the aesthetics of the center and the historic character, et cetera. So thank you all. And what Carrie just said about the amount of housing and the character of the town and that balance, and getting the building a little lower so it fits in with its site and environment better. Obviously, for me, that's very, very important. I'm also happy to hear that possibly 4 affordable units could be achieved in this building. And a lot of us who are so worried about the aesthetics of the center care very much about affordable housing. And I must say, I live across the street from the Waterfield development. I'm eager for it to get started so we have more affordable units in town. We're not anti-affordable housing. So in terms of the top story, I was really dismayed that, and I will be if it's built, that it has 3 luxury units, which we will be able to see from the hillsides, and it just doesn't feel quite right as sort of the dominant building in the Civic Center and, in the town center. And to have it dropped a story is aesthetically better and also, I think, philosophically better. I also wanted to point out that I've been worried about the top 2 stories in terms of materials. The painted aluminum has made me very uncomfortable, and to take off that very top story that's painted aluminum will help. Also, I had pointed out early on that the west side of the 6th floor is really unfriendly. It's just a corridor with air handling units. Not like the east side, which has units where the lights come on and off as people come and go. It's not a friendly elevation. I'm curious a little bit about the 2-foot parapet. I think now the building will be the height of the Mill Pond building, but it's better than 69 feet. So I also think, we look at the pictures and we still don't see the elevator shaft, or the cell phone towers remain problematic. And I think, to get a realistic handle, we need the developer and the designers to show us what these towers are going to look like. But no matter, if we're choosing between 6 or 5, I really urge you to work towards the 5. So I will sign off there, but thank you,
And sign in.
everyone. Yeah, for working on this. It's not easy.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the public comment. And while she's filling that out, we can welcome anybody else. Vacuum up there. Come on up. And we'll get to everyone. Well, we'll get to everyone if you stay under 30 minutes. Do the public comment and then sign it while he comes up, and then we can be efficient with time.
John Serbier, I'm chairman of the Winchester Housing Partnership Board. I just want to make a few comments. In terms of the distribution of the units, I agree that EOHLC can be reasonable. The question is how serious is the difference between what's being proposed and what they want. And so I would hope that that distribution can be made available for people to look at. I would encourage Paul to work with the town, with the Housing Partnership Board, with Jennifer Caffarella in the town manager's office to take a look at it. So rather than working with HLC, by themselves on that. In terms of the definition of inclusionary units, speaking as someone who is involved in drafting the bylaw and the rules, the inclusionary units include both the 80% units and the 120% units. It's not just the 80% units. And that I would encourage, I'm glad to hear that you're not going to make a decision tonight. It's important to get input from other town boards, particularly the select board, on this, and they have an opportunity to comment. The interesting, as I sat close to Kerry last night in the State of the Town report, one of the points that was made was the importance of the permit fees. And so while I agree that they have been waived in the past, this is a particularly sensitive time because the select board is asking the residents to vote for an override. And simultaneously, if they're saying, okay, we're going to waive a permit fee, that has certain public relations issues and capabilities. So it's a unfortunate time, but I think that the select board need to weigh in on that. Let me see. I would just reinforce Marty Jones's point. This is the 4th project where inclusionary zoning, whether an application has been submitted. This is the first time that, out of those 4, that the developer said that in a 5-story building, the affordable units are not financially feasible. And I think it would be very beneficial. I recognize their desire for confidentiality. I think it would be very beneficial to be a little bit more open why exactly it's not feasible, rather than just asking people to take their word for it. And I mean, there's the land cost, there's the luxury units on the top. I think it would be beneficial to kind of understand that. And the last point I just want to make, I was in a meeting yesterday, and it came across my mind. One of the things we haven't talked about is who's going to live here? Who's going to live in the affordable units? And I just jotted down a few to kind of put a face on the people of what we're talking about and whose housing we're either providing or taking away. They're town employees, they're retired town employees. It could be a single parent with a child. It could be a retiree who has, rented their entire life. It could be seniors downsizing on that. There have been units that have been sold to a widow or widower or husband or man or wife whose partner has died, and they were renting in a not very satisfactory situation. They bought these units. So these are real people. They're people who we want to give the opportunity to live in Winchester. And so I think it's worthwhile trying to provide as many units as possible. The notion of 150% AMI income, I agree, there's huge housing needs there, but that's different than 120%. If I didn't say it before, the Housing Partnership Board is meeting next Wednesday, and we will review and discuss this and come in with a recommendation.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So hopefully that was a little bit helpful.
Did you sign in, John?
Thank you.
Could you get you to sign that just for the,
John,
just to help with minutes?
sorry.
Oh,
Yeah. Come on up.
do I have to sign in?
I know.
It's to
You're
help us
famous
with
enough,
minutes.
You could just
We know
do a
who you are,
letter.
John.
Do you have a symbol?
You know where to find them.
Just a little house.
A symbol of mark.
Yeah.
Well, hello, everybody. It's very good to see you all. I know everyone's been working very hard on this. My involvement in this project, one of the best benefits is getting to know all of you better, and I mean that honestly. That said, I'm very grateful that hard work and thought and compromise has been acted upon to see if we can get something that is meeting as many needs in the town as possible. That's a very hard task. I feel that there are some things beyond just subjective views that recommend a fifth floor alternative. I think the idea of the context in this vicinity is a factual statement that the buildings are what they are. They're not 6 floors. They're much reduced than 6 floors. There are many historical properties here. There are many historical properties that are, registered on the part of their historical register. So I think it's a little more than just my opinion, your opinion. I think there's a foundation on which we could build and we should build, and by that I mean preserve, what we have here in town. And I think we can do that without sacrificing other really critical needs, which include affordable housing. As John just mentioned, there are many residents, potential residents, who would benefit from this, no doubt. I would also add, however, that there are other potential developments in town or other locations in town that could also provide that. This property, I guess every owner thinks their property is unique, but this property feels particularly unique because it's so smack dab. I don't know that it could be more in the middle of town, and it's got the waterways and other benefits. And so I feel like we're moving in an encouraging direction. I feel like people are working hard in good faith. And I feel we're really close to something that we can all feel pretty dang good about. And I'm very grateful for that. It validates my feeling in town government. It validates my feeling in this community, and also our development partners. I would be, it would be incorrect to leave them out of this conversation. I think they are trying hard to, help make this as good as it can possibly be. So I think there's a good foundation for pushing for 5 floors. I think 5 floors versus 6 floors does factually reduce the visual dominance of this building, so that is a real thing. And I think these creative work that has been done around the affordable housing is really impressive, and it's not something that I'm good at, and so I really am grateful that folks have worked on that. And based on the folks that I have gotten to know through this process, I think they would be very grateful and appreciative for many, many years that we would be able to achieve this balance that we're seemingly very close to. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Additional public comment? In the front and then in the back? Either one of you.
I'm Joe Randolph at 325 Highland Ave, and I just want to say that I am heartened by the conversation tonight and hopeful that you can find a way to make the five-story solution work. I think it's within reach, and I would urge you to make it work. I'd be delighted to get rid of that sixth floor. So that's my feedback. Thank you so much for working so hard to get to this point. Thanks.
Thank you very much. You have the record, I think, of perhaps the shortest comment during the entire public hearing. There should be an award, like a cake or something. Come on up while he fills that out. Again, that's just for our minutes so that they can have your name and stuff for the record.
Hi, I'm D.M. O'Connell. I think you've seen me before. 10 Bacon Street. After 6.5 years of this, I'm in a much better place in terms of thinking what the promise is and what might be for the town. I can see a compromise eking out here. I'm grateful for everybody being patient with each other, patient with the community, and a certain amount of patience that Mr. Ogdenbini has also shown on the part of the developer, that it wasn't a confrontational issue. It was getting to a better place for everybody. And I would just encourage you to really focus on this fifth floor. I think Jack at one stage said during a meeting, he said, I guess, the brick building, the 4 floors look great. If we all had our druthers, we'd probably build a fourth, just have 4 floors.
Oh, don't do it. Please don't take that.
I called it a long time ago.
and obviously that's what we would have liked. And then it crept to 5 and crept to 6. So the idea of it now tapering back and focusing on that 5th floor would make it all worthwhile, I think, for all of us. There's one last underlying thing that I would like to say, and I think Nick was one of the ones who picked up on this a number of times, is I think the top still, from a design perspective, needs some work. The fact that it was 2 stories before that top looked rather ungainly. It still looks somewhat awkward and needs some work. And I'm also concerned about that whole issue with respect to the antennae. And the gentleman who made the engineer who made a presentation a couple of weeks ago really voiced some concern about the size of those antennae. And I wonder if there's an opportunity here when that 5th floor, if hopefully we're just dealing with the 5th floor, if when it's redesigned, that the whole notion of how antennae might be incorporated into the facade and into the structure so to limit their visibility. And that would, I think, be very helpful. And it would reduce what we now see as a sort of a crown of thorns around the top of this building. So whatever we can to mitigate it, if we can reduce it to 5 floors, great. Do a little extra work on that 5th floor, reduce whatever the impact of the antenna is, and it'd be worth it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time and patience.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We have time for additional public comment. Come on up.
Maureen.
Maureen Meister. I don't know what to say. I live in town, right? Just thanks especially to the people who participated in that working group. And Marty, thanks. I want to thank you especially. It really does help generally to work with experts, and I think that's a big point to take away. Marty's an expert, and you are allowed to hire experts, and we should be doing so. Our board used to. The zoning board does it routinely. You need to get back to that. So let me encourage you to do that. So that's not, I mean, it's positive, and there's no reason, we don't always have a person like Marty to call on in town, and we shouldn't expect that. So just remind you, the state provides for it. It's under special permits. It's Chapter 53G. Please, get into the habit. It's like it just fell away here. When our board, when I was on it, we used to use it. So a reminder, experts can help you. It's so basic. And then you're fumbling around, and I'm sorry, I should use tactful words. You're questioning what's in the zoning bylaw. I'm, sitting in the peanut gallery, reading the language and thinking, hello, people. So inclusionary housing is a chapter 7.3.19, and I immediately flipped to definitions. It's not defined. It would be nice if it were, but it's not defined. So it's another blooper. Is somebody here keeping notes? Maybe town council can help us on what's missing in the zoning bylaw, because I know that there was an RFP that went out, and there's going to be a whole new review of the entire zoning bylaw, and this lack of definitions does make it harder. So this is something else I used to do that when I was on the planning board, just keep a list of things that start looking problematic. So anyway, the purpose of inclusionary housing is to foster the creation of housing that is affordable and is located near mass transit, schools, parks, and other municipal improvements. Great. Okay, we get it. So it's something we're discussing. And the requirements is under the next little bunch of subsection 7.3.19.2 requirements, and it spells out the 10% and so on, and then it gives you the 5% of the dwelling units within a project that have 25 or more dwelling units shall be affordable to middle income applicants. Well, what does that mean? It means 80 to 120% of the Boston area median income. Well, let's look at it. How does it work with Winchester? Could we say, well, those two actually, how do you reconcile those? Because that's not actually middle income. Maybe that's a justification. But you have to think like lawyers. Sorry, this is law. This is government is law. So let's think about what is it that's the difference between middle income and trying to accommodate middle income here. And does 120 do it, or maybe 140 does it? But you have to think, well, what's our defense? You're all sitting around here saying, what's the defense? Well, let me suggest there's a defense. In the meantime, you're very careful about wondering what's in the law, and you're asking counsel, but there are other pieces of this zoning bylaw that you're not paying attention to or giving weight to. So, for example, 7.3.19, design review guidelines. Development, any part of the perimeter of new development that fronts on an existing street or public open space should be designed to complement and harmonize with adjacent land uses. With respect to use, scale. Scale is the big one. And so how are you going to reconcile that? That's a requirement. That's in your zoning. That's something you also want to achieve. So you should be saying, yeah, but we're also trying to achieve scale, proper scale. And this thing, it will tell you, the East Core is 2.5 stories high. So we're going way over that already. So you really want to figure out how is all this working according to the language and what's mandated and what's not. And speaking of what's not, and this is where I wrap up, what's not mandated, frankly, is your commercial. And I know this is it's touchy. I know, Carrie, you've been an advocate, but this is the tail end of your commercial land. You've got a bank across the street. I do patronize the florist, and after that, we're into Scotty's Insurance. It's a service industry. It's not really retail. So you're kind of weak at the tail end here with retail. And you're probably going to get, I probably won't be a nail salon because there's not enough profit, but you're probably going to get shades drawn in some kind of, and maybe not a bank, but, insurance company or something. It's going to be pretty dead down there. Sorry, but that's reality. You are not required in here to include, it says 7.3.17.3, 7.3.17.3, mix of land uses. And then it says retail. Retail restaurant uses shall focus on and enliven existing streets in the CBD. That's if you have it. But it's each development, it's under 7.3.13.3, mix of land uses. Each development is encouraged to include a mixture of uses, including retail and restaurant. Well, encouraged is not quite a mandate word. So you do have some wiggle room there, and that's back to your developer. So you can figure out how much is it worth, and is that something else you want to give up? I guess I'll say that let's pursue as far as we can. I think we can, and I think we can deal with the 140 area median income as that second-tier workforce housing. But you won't find workforce housing in that section that I've just been reading. So anyway, I'm going to be a paralegal or something in my next one.
Sign in, please. Thanks, Maureen.
We have 7 minutes left for public comment if people want to give it, and if they're done, we can. Seeing none, I will close public comment.
Oh, Monty wants to.
Pardon? Oh, come on up. Sorry. I didn't see your hand. My apologies.
I'm short.
Not at all.
Hi, my name is Monty Morocco. I'm a local realtor. I've been living here since 1981, so I'm not a townie, but almost.
Not yet. Need another 10 or 20 years.
I raised 4 children here, and I have 5 grandchildren. And we've been able to keep them all here recently. And they call me Goopy, by the way. I told my daughter, don't change the name. I like Goopy. But anyways, there's one thing that I haven't heard much of. I know everyone knows about it, but no one's really mentioned it. I have so many clients that their children have left home, and they're looking for places. And this is magnificent to walk to town. So I'm really glad that you guys, both sides, have been working this out together. I've been worried at some times that, gee, maybe we're not going to get this project, but it seems like it's coming in a good direction. And I want to thank all you guys. And I want to thank the developer, has made a lot of concessions. So I hope it's coming to a conclusion and we can start getting some people that want to stay in town. Like myself, my children have all left. I'm up at the Winning Farm, so I found a place 4 or 5 years ago. But there's a lot of people I know, my age, that haven't found a place. So they're stuck in a house, a 3-4 bedroom house with 2.5 baths, and there's no children living there. So I just want to thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the comment. And again, my apologies for not seeing you in the back. So I will be a little bit more careful here. Any other individuals interested in public comment? So do you concur that there's no other public comment request? I always have to do that on Zoom because I can never see the hands raised on Zoom. But so with that, we will actually close public comment. And I would like us to return to this question of whether, legal questions aside, whether we think there's enough in this idea that's been somewhat fleshed out by the working group with Paul, Marty, that this is the direction we want to go. And if it is the direction we want to go, I think we just need consensus that that's the way we're going to go, and we're going to work out and going to find out if the details can be made. We have, obviously, town council. We're going to need to work behind the scenes and determine what is allowed, what is not. But I think we need to have this conversation. So I open it up to you guys to talk about the pros and cons of 6-story, meeting all the inclusionary housing requirements versus a 5-story, which is going to need some massaging. So,
I mean, I think what I'm hearing is that we've all worked so hard to get to a place that everyone can be comfortable with. That it's been a very difficult process, and that Kerry, I mean, you guys just put in a whole lot of work to see what
And
you can
John.
do to get this down to 5 stories. And everyone is working, everyone's making compromises. So I think what I'm hearing is that this is the direction it's going. I'm not hearing that we want to go back to 6.
Others?
I'm obviously biased. I'll make a couple of small points from the details that came past us. It's not a small consideration that waiving a permitting fee is a cost sacrifice to the town, but as Jack has pointed out before, the annual tax revenue that the new building will generate would make that back, it seems like maybe roughly a year. So, and then we would have that. That was also factored into the presentation that Michelle Pryor gave about the cost burden on the town, turning these projects into they're sort of building these projects is going to create significant revenue for the town. So while it is a sacrifice up front of a building permitting fee, it creates an increase in ongoing tax revenue, which I think offsets it personally. And then in terms of sort of, I mean, I think it's a great combination of units to offer. So for me, it meets the criteria of the PUD. I think Brian caught this. I think to me, the new configuration meets it even slightly better than the old configuration. I think the top 3 units offered in the 6-story are translatable to many properties across town. So I don't think that necessarily enhances our inventory in the same way that we've taken another step closer to when we had to sort of squeeze in the additional affordable units. So to me, this is a satisfactory outcome. I mean, as much as we joke we would all love it to be 3 or 4, 3 or 4 is clearly not at all economically feasible. And in terms of if the legality works out, we hopped on Zillow. There are units there's a small inventory of units that are around 300 to 400, and then there's kind of nothing to 900. And so there's a lot of room in the middle to fill that middle income. And the 150 is above what we have as our ideal for affordability, but it's definitely an underserved price point in town. And I think that's worth remembering. The numbers are not final, so in terms of whether this ends up being a more profitable project, what I like about the configuration of the solution that we came up with is that it weds the town and the developer together to this being a really successful project. If it ends up being sort of more profitable than they were anticipating, we get that back by being able to option the workforce units. And maybe we have to do a bit more work on the town side, but I like that partnership. I think it's a great use of a PUD. I think it's commitment on both sides, and I thought it was a really heartwarming process, to be honest.
Yeah, it's nice to see people working together.
Yeah, I really applaud Paul. He stretched for this. I don't think he went skipping out of the meetings, but in a successful negotiation, everybody loses a little and everybody wins a little, and I think this was that.
Question is, did he sign up for this a year and a half ago or whenever he
Yeah,
stepped in?
yeah. I'm sure.
But
I don't want to hear what happens when we all log off.
Others?
I'm working with Carrie. I share her thinking that this becomes more of a partnership, and that the more we talked, the more we felt we were talking to someone we wanted to partner with. That this is going to be a 3-year, probably, process, and this is someone we would like to be working with. Always willing to listen to suggestions and give constructive responses. And what we have here, I think, is reasonable. It does. We get some affordables. We yield the permit fee, but the taxes. It's got a huge sellout. So I agree. That's something we can do. It's a reasonable compromise. If we really do not want the 6th floor, it seems the town does not want the 6th floor. So
Picked up on that, did you?
Yeah. We have to, there are some details about the cell phone antennas we don't quite know, that we're going to have to be working on, but this is part of the way forward.
Thank you. Jack?
I was very encouraged by what came down the last couple of weeks, and I thank John and Carrie and Paul and Marty and Chris. I think it was fabulous work, and they've been commended multiple times, and I will add to that. I know it wasn't easy. I think every time I opened my mouth about this project, I said it's too tall, and so I'm greatly relieved that we can honestly consider 5 floors. As Carrie said, 4 would be better, but that's not realistic. And I'm a realist, so I'm very happy with the way things turned out, and I can definitely support this, including the way it breaks down with the affordable units.
Thank you. So I'm really pleased with how this turned out. Well, where we are and how it turned out, because we're still in the middle. But I struggled when this was first brought forward to us, this idea, which I understand was the first stab, so I'm not blaming anyone, because it was a huge loss in affordable housing, the first stab that we saw. And that's forever. Permit fees are one time. They're real money, but they're one time. Affordable units is a family that will live in there in perpetuity, multiple families over time, potentially. So I was uncomfortable with losing even one unit. I feel like this might just thread the needle. I make no qualms about the fact that I don't think there's a huge difference between 6 stories and 5 stories. I know some people disagree with me, even on this board, of the appearance. However, if we can be 5 stories, which clearly a lot of people do care about, and we can hit the affordability requirements, if we can maintain commercial space that I value, and I think we value, and if some sort of revenue sharing can allow us to either be able to buy those workforce units or simply put money into the Affordable Housing Trust so that they can buy units somewhere else, and there's just simply a payment in lieu and it doesn't end up translating into another unit in this building, I would consider that a win. So that's a long way of saying I'm fine with what we had as 6 stories, and I'm fine with this, and this knocks a story off and makes a whole bunch of people really happy. So if I have a choice between making a whole bunch of people really happy or not, I will choose the
Choose joy, Brian.
Yeah, choose joy. So I agree. So I think that it sounds pretty unanimous that if we can make what you guys have outlined in this shell reality, that's the direction we should go. Keeping in mind that if we can't, they have everything all set and ready to go for a 6-story version that meets all of our guidelines. That I won't speak for the lawyer, but I think the lawyer would ultimately say, yep, they check all the boxes. So we have to be very creative. I don't know how we waive the, if we choose to waive the building permit. That's the select board. Is that us? The select board would have to agree to that. We need to have an opinion from the Housing Partnership Board on the payment in lieu. That's required. So there's steps here that have to happen. Can you help us with how we would, so whether we vote on this or not, I think there's consensus that this plan is the direction to move forward. And we're going to need to work with town council, and we're going to need to work with select board and work with the Housing Partnership Board to make it a reality. But I don't actually know how to do that.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of moving parts. What I recommend the board do tonight is vote on the proposal which you would prefer to move forward with, the 5 stories or 6 stories. That vote is just more of a gesture of letting everyone know this is the direction that we're moving in. There are some other things that need to be considered with, if you choose to go with 5 stories. The waivers need to be re-voted on because they'll change slightly because the waivers were based off of the original height. My assumption is you don't want to have a waiver for 69 feet if the building's only proposed at 59.
Correct.
So there are some changes in the process that need to be done. It's certainly my goal and to have it all wrapped up in an updated version of the staff report to get you as prepared as possible for next meeting to make all of those let's call them amendments to the process so far. But there are going to be a bunch of questions that we need to make sure are answered and are written down and are really checked and double checked before we get there. The other thing that I recommend to the board is that if you are going to move forward with the 5-story, as town council mentioned, you do need to show that you do need to find that is the more reasonable thing or the better thing for the town. And I think that you need to be very detailed about what those findings are. We want to go with 5 stories because it's shorter is not enough. We should look through.
Well, we have Marty's memo.
Yep, Marty's memo helps, and we can, and I think that you can do it. I think that you all have very good reasons of why 5 stories works. We've actually heard them here tonight, but don't be afraid to add more to that. It doesn't need to be an emotion. It's just findings, and they'll be added to the to that section as to why that proposal was chosen.
So I opened the meeting saying I'd like to be able to vote on special permit on potentially the 24th, although we haven't scheduled a meeting then. Do you think that we can get from here to there in 2 weeks?
Well, there's no harm in trying.
Yeah.
We will work to prepare as much as we possibly can.
I mean, there's still things we have to do.
It's a great goal.
Yeah.
But we'll.
I mean, we do need to schedule the time, obviously, to go through the CBD regulations and vote on the waivers, vote on each one. So I don't think we need to rush like that date. I think we'll do our best.
Yeah.
Fair. We gotta review the list of waivers. The developer needs to give us the list, I think, and then we have to go down waiver by waiver in session and hearing and vote, to waive all that stuff. In CBD governing 7.3, the zoning bylaw. So, and then section 2.6 of CBD regulations as well, that we can waive strict compliance with these. So we gotta fit that in and just make sure that we cross our T's and dot our I's and do everything we're supposed to.
Agreed. And that was what I was, God willing, that was what I was hoping we would be doing at our next meeting. The work that has to happen between now and then is behind the scenes, working with town council, really sort of determining, she got this tonight or earlier today. I'm certainly not putting her on the spot any more than we already did to say, is it allowed? But we want to not be voting on something that's easy to strike down.
Yeah, and then I just had one other thing I wanted to bring up. I think the developer needs to apply for the special permit for the cell phone towers to the ZBA. I think that's what has to happen, and they should do it as soon as they can. I think the zoning bylaw 8422 regarding design guidelines. And just to echo with one of the commenters, I'm wondering if the architects can look at the cell towers that incorporated in part of the design, maybe have a vertical decoration on the top floor that is there irrespective of the towers, and then some of those decorations will have a tower in them and some of them might not, but you'll be in charge of what it looks like because you'll have already conceived of that decoration that will then house the towers. Some of them might be empty, but it'll be, you could do something like an Art Deco nod, or maybe a Second Empire nod with a convex shape to the curve of the roof, something. I know that's not for tonight, but I know people have brought up the top floor, and I guess now that I see this, I'm noticing that the windows on Mount Vernon Street have the crisscross. They're symmetrical, and the ones on the side look like college dorm windows with the asymmetrical with that tiny little thing. So maybe at some point we can just vote and get rid of those college dorm windows and put the symmetrical windows on the side as well. But we can revisit this, and I digress.
Thank you. Taylor, I have a question for you. If the special permit gets approved for this and they want to put cell phone towers on, what is the process, in your understanding of the process that they have to go through to add cell phone towers to the top of this building?
Yep, so it is a permit that needs to be submitted to the ZBA. It needs to be approved by the ZBA. We have met with staff has met with the applicant as well as the tenants of the telecommunication. We have discussed the need for a temporary tower during construction, and then what the permanent tower is. So, Nick, I think everyone on the team is agrees with you that that permit needs to be submitted as early as possible. We're still their team is still working on designing plans. This is going to be a 4 or 5 party combo, so it's complicated. But it is in the works. I do just want to mention, and maybe it's worth at some point bringing up the staff memo, because I'm getting kind of a feeling that maybe some of the things from the staff memo were forgotten, a lot of the decisions that we were making. So a condition that this board has already made for telecommunications, or has suggested that they'll make during special permit, is prior to the issuance of any building permit, the applicant shall submit a narrative and visual plan detailing any proposed temporary and/or permanent telecommunications equipment, including but not limited to antennas, towers, related devices, and screening, to the town planner and planning board for review. Such equipment must not be installed until it has been reviewed. The planning board must seek additional advisory review from the design committee, and if proposed the telecommunications plan would result in significant visual impacts to the site, building, or surrounding area. And this is after ZBA approval. Okay. So, and that's just to remind the board that that's a condition that you already created.
And that conversation's been had with the developer as well. They're, you can't speak to what they're aware of, but it's been conveyed to them as well.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want any surprises. So it seems like we're in agreement. I would like a motion that the planning board, I don't know exactly, proceed down the 5-story route as proposed. I don't know exactly the phraseology to use this, but I think it is important to signal that this is the direction we're going to go, so that we're not on a two-path.
I think the word is pursue, the verb is pursue.
I move that we consider the redevelopment plan for 10 Converse Place / 33 Mount Vernon based on the 5-story proposal, and reconsider site plan and special permit for that option.
Maybe outlined in the two
As outlined in the
two memos.
Two memos
collectively.
I was about to take a right and go in the woods, so you saved me there.
So that's a motion.
I will second it.
Second. Is there any discussion on that? Okay, roll call. Nick?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. In a way, we've just made an important decision. In another way, we've just opened up a whole can of worms of things that we need to finalize. So the question I have before this board right now is, Do we feel comfortable looking back at the site plan review aspects that we did not vote and voting them contingent on it being a 5-story building as just described right here, and then because those were largely waiting on whether it was 6 stories or 5 stories?
Yes, I mean, I think we considered everything that was happening at ground floor, so I think you're right. I think there's one open item on the open space plan that we just have to make careful conditions on, but other than that, I think we're ready to. I'm ready.
It's not in.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I neglected to bring my copy of that with me this evening.
Should be in there.
I have it. So many files. I think we all have so many files.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can find it
Last
quicker on my
discussed it on
computer.
127, I believe.
Yeah, so the most updated version is on the screen. So the ones marked in yellow are the ones that the board has not made a decision on. This table has been updated based off of the board's findings. So you will see the decision that the board made on the previous reviews, also the findings of the review.
Okay, so we passed on traffic circulation and access. If you could scroll down just so we can summarize what we passed on screening, including use of natural land features, plantings, and erosion control. And then we passed on the 2, consistency with characters and scale of surrounding buildings and consistency with design review guidelines and section.
Yeah.
So let's start at 1 and see if that's something that we now, like, we may not, there may be nothing new that we have ready for 1. So there's no way I can read that. Somebody could.
Do you want the standard, the staff comment, or the planning board findings? Tabled pending, so traffic circulation and access is marked as tabled pending more detailed information from applicant regarding parking for delivery trucks and moving vans. Questions concerning possible elimination of parking spaces on Converse Place adjacent to Scotty Insurance for referral for consideration by select board. Potential reversal of traffic on Converse Place as a possible solution, also referral to select board. So we would be conditioning this. I mean, we would essentially be saying, based on the findings of.
I'm not sure that we necessarily have new information on any of that since the last time we met.
Yeah. But I don't know, we could potentially see the building open and still not feel like we were the right body to make that final.
Yeah. We can't reverse the street. We can't get rid of parking
I
spaces.
maintain that we should reverse the street, but it is out of our hands. I'm prepared to make that
I agree with
pitch.
you. Just to keep people on their toes.
Right. So I think we could potentially move to, I'm reading the staff comments. I think we could potentially move to approve the traffic circulation and access plan with the the condition that it meets approval by the town planner and by the select board, but I guess we'd want to parse the.
Did you just make a motion?
I think it sounded like one.
Sounded like
Well, it's squishy, but I'll stand by it if I need to.
Okay. So there was a motion.
Second.
Okay. Any conversation on this? I mean, part of the issue is any building there, a 3-story building,
Yeah.
is going to have impacts on the traffic. We might want to reverse the road. We would probably need to change, like.
Yeah, I think the only part that would have been our purview was trying to figure out if there was a place for a UPS truck to kind of tuck in to drop stuff off. I think that's the only part that's sort of like the parking spaces, the direction of traffic, that's engineering select board, that's not us. But I think we were looking at that spot inside the garage and deciding whether or not that was somewhere where, your prime stuff can come from. So I think if we give that to the town planner. we're
I'm sure he's
probably
excited to add that to
There are more conditions for this one on page 16. I think it's like 3 pages down. Just so that you know, it's in the other considerations. So just keep going. Long-term traffic and circulation. They're mostly repetitive, but it was just more.
Okay. So essentially, we're not closing the issue. We're just passing the baton. So I'll stand by my squishy motion.
And there's a second to your squishy motion. Any additional discussion? Okay. Seeing none. Carrie?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Votes unanimous. Screening and the use of natural land features, planting and erosion.
Okay, so this one is, so we have some work to do on this part of it, because the proposed protected space along the building is 20 feet. And besides the work we need to do sorting out the open space questions, if there's a 20-foot space between the building and the end of the private walkway, at that point in the open space, if you're allowing them to sort of build a higher hedge or a higher fence, you start to obstruct the view shed of the waterway, which was that was the basis for one of the legal issues with the initial rejection on the part of Concom. So to some extent, I think, I don't know how to handle that unless we just put a height limit, sort of like 3 feet. Whatever you do, keep it below some benchmark point.
We had discussed this last time, potentially cutting that, reaching some compromise instead of 20 feet, 10, 15. We haven't really.
We haven't got to that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all appreciate the need to protect the residents' privacy, but the open space is a significant issue. I mean, that's something we definitely have to hammer out.
When they first staked it out, Carrie and Maura Sullivan and I walked out there, and Carrie paced off 20 feet, and I was kind of like.
Which ended exactly where Maura eyeballed it. Just pointing out, if you need to eyeball something, she is your person.
20 feet is 20 feet, and that's quite a chunk. And to Carrie's point, I appreciate the need for privacy for the first floor residences, but this is downtown. This isn't in the
Yeah, people aren't expecting a full yard.
20 district.
So I had imagined when we put that forward, that condition, that would be on the order of 10 feet. I appreciate and respect that they came back with 20 feet. Actually, I was really appreciative because they came with a map and said, here. And like, instead of just sort of these nebulous terms, here's a map. I think in the good faith spirit of compromise, I'd probably say 15 is probably right down the middle, is what I would say, but I'm not sure what everybody else would say. I think that 15 feet, along with the exclusion of tall fences, because the fact that some of the space is open to the public and some of it is private doesn't mean, like your view, so it's somebody's private backyard space, you can't go into it.
Mm-hmm.
They get some privacy there. They deserve the privacy. But it's not also, Jeff Bezos's wall of hedge around his house in, Beverly Hills, which is 20 feet tall, so has to be some clear limit. So I think that here has to be clear that some height is limiting. Like it's sectioned off, so it's private space, but it's not a 5-foot fence.
I
agree. I mean, tall fences anywhere in Winchester are inappropriate, I think.
Especially here.
Yes, especially here.
Yeah.
And I would add that if a green wall, my smile is a coping mechanism for the PTSD I have over Arbor Vitae arguments at the boat club. If you want a spicy meeting that will keep you awake until midnight, wait until the boat club's on Concom.
They always turn into brown or Vitae.
Well, I'll tell you where they grow successfully, and that is around the boat club. I've never seen arguments like that, but if we allow a green wall, we may also want to consider capping the height of the green
Would it
wall.
be appropriate here to make a motion that is contingent upon reaching agreement with the applicant for a 15-foot setback? Is that appropriate here?
I think that's,
That's asking too much?
Taylor, when do we,
And that's a special permit condition that we put in.
yeah, I think that's later.
Yeah, I don't think that's a great condition.
Yeah.
I think height of
So, I mean,
makes sense, but I agree with that, but
A condition of fence or green screen not to exceed, I'm throwing this out there, 3 feet in height. Maybe that's, 3 feet is what, you know.
but the height is a little more.
I'm watching John.
I don't know, 3 feet's a little low.
Yeah, it's pretty low.
It is, however, in the middle of town. I mean, we just.
No,
spent
I
forever-
know, you know.
I think
I kind of think about the height and the depth of the screen, you know. And if you had a planting,
Right.
you know, that was, 5 feet deep.
Mm-hmm.
It tends to police people, they won't really walk in the mulch.
Like a privet
Right.
You
hedge.
know,
Right.
Excuse me?
Like a privet hedge.
You know, it.
I just craved a
you know,
crumpet.
3-4 feet, but then if you had some depth to it, then,
I think the one problem you're going to have making a decision on the height right now, I think it's kind of a complex. I mean,
Yeah.
Are you talking about individual plants? Are you talking about?
Yeah, it's.
Are you
it's
talking
sort of-
about
it's
fences? Are you
tricky.
talking about living fences? I mean, if someone uses hydrangeas as a
Right.
fence and they go to 4.5 feet instead of your 4 feet, are we going to have to make them take them down? Like, I think you're going in I understand the direction you're going in, but I don't
Yeah,
think setting a height limit tonight is reasonable without thinking about it a little bit more.
I think it's important, though, when we're talking about green screens is different, that it not be a fence beyond a certain height. 'Cause
Yeah,
a fence
but
is
if
very-
you
the
think
fence
of it
is
as a
very different-
resident,
fence is
yeah.
a very different creature than a green screen. And if you're actually sitting as a public there, and you look over that way towards the building, and there's a lovely wall of hydrangea, that's not actually all bad.
Yeah, but if you're a really tired mom and you want to sit outside your condo with your 3-year-old, a fence is a really nice way to close your eyes for 5 minutes.
I get that.
So maybe
Like the height limit of the fence.
maybe we think about a green, like you could have a fence and a green. What's in the landscape? I feel like Concom looked very carefully at the landscape plan and we're on our back foot here.
Well, the landscape plan itself doesn't delineate any fences.
Okay,
for
so there's
the-
no.
Not in the landscape plan. So, I mean, it sounds to me what you're asking, what might be helpful for you is to understand what it could look like,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because up to now, we haven't seen any renderings, we haven't seen any visuals, any images, anything of anything with fences. So I think that you should probably see what it looks like or get an idea of what's possible.
Yeah, so
before
we
you
need to
make
know
a
view
decision.
shed and public-facing screening.
So if you make any decision tonight on this, I think it should be to see a detailed fencing plan for those particular residential units, just because I think that that's really where you're
Right.
really
well, also,
thinking, right?
Right. But as a building that will stand for a long time and developers will sell it and kind of move on, we need to also know what we are, it'll evolve in the, so their rendering will be great, but we should also have our own ideas
I don't know
about-
if you need a rendering, but you need a plan. And I think, I don't know, do you need that plan in order to vote on the whole project? It's up to you.
On that particular question, yeah.
Well, we need the not allowables to vote on the project. We need you cannot put up a 10-foot stockade fence 20 feet from the building.
Okay.
Like there's somewhere in between there that I think do need, but I don't know. It could just be an approval process. I mean,
Any fence put in on the property requires approval.
that's why I think it should come back. We should come back to it after we hammer out the open space plan because, like as we've mentioned, it's a weird diagonal, and there will have to be some collaboration on how that space is managed in general. So if there's an approval or there's some handshake in there, it could be the way that we handle this.
So is it reasonable for us to ask the applicant to come back at next meeting with more detail on the fences,
Yeah.
possible fences, living fences, shrubbery?
Yeah. Great.
Could screen the residential area.
Yeah, we'll happily take ideas.
Could we add also the commercial areas as well, in case there's screening put there? I mean, it's equally, it matters, not just.
So tabled pending submission of detailed fencing plan, or however you want to phrase it,
Yeah, screening, yep.
for those residential units on the first floor.
Yeah.
Okay.
To me, it's not, that the urgency is not that they don't have privacy. The urgency is it not look like a giant wall. That
Yeah, no,
also,
I'm on
like-
both sides. It's a
Yeah.
hard balance.
Yeah. And if someone buys one of those units and there's the understanding that that's not a 6-foot fence there, that will be an understanding when they buy it.
Right.
It will not be like, something that they, oh my goodness, I didn't know I couldn't do that. It should just be clear that they
Yeah,
can't do
and
that.
it's downtown. I mean, I clearly remember being in a friend's condo many years ago in Salem, and someone was checking out the flowers in his window box, and he was like, "How are you doing?" Just getting the person clear off the sidewalk. You don't expect a lot of personal space in dense areas, but
Okay, so this is where we get to the two big ones. Consistency with character and scale of surrounding buildings, CBD areas, and neighborhood, and consistency with design review guidelines in section 7.3.17.
Are there any other items that are kind of similar down below?
I believe
just
that's the
these
last
two.
of what we didn't do, but I might be mistaken.
Okay, that's the last.
Consistency, the next one, consistency with design review
Yes,
guidelines.
those two are, yeah.
Okay, those two. There isn't, and I remember last time just thought that I voted on one thing, and then there was another one down below.
There was
there was an
historical
historic,
character.
and we asked for direction on whether it should be considered as a parcel or the neighborhood. It was the parcel, and it passed.
So, can you read what we tabled? Because I can't read it.
Yep. Table consistency with character and scale of surrounding buildings, CBD areas, and neighborhoods was tabled pending review of information, and this is the same quote for both that and consistency with design review guidelines. Both were tabled pending review of information and applicant's Jan 6 memo containing response to requests for shorter building height and subsequent board discussion at continuation of hearing on Jan 27.
Okay, thank you.
I think we addressed that tonight.
So I'm going to pull up 7.3.17. But please go ahead. Well,
I would make a motion that the 5-story version of this building is consistent with the character and scale of surrounding buildings, CBD area, and neighborhoods within the expectations of the PUD overlay.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
So I just want to.
The PUD piece is important because that will protect us from arguing with everyone along the rotary.
That is the real trick all along here, is
This
that
is a
one can look
special
at the
parcel.
consistency of character scale of surrounding buildings in CBD areas. This is substantially taller.
This is out of scale, but it is a
However,
PUD.
the flip side of that is
It's
specifically is allowed by special permit. So it's sort of in this sort of gray area of, it would be really nice if that bylaw, wouldn't be nice for this particular developer, it would be really nice if that bylaw said, no, 3 stories and that's it. But it doesn't. So it's allowed. So it's,
And it carries the burden of the PUD to increase housing, and there's not, with the affordable housing criteria, there's not an affordable point where a 3-story building works here. Certainly not.
Right.
2.5 to 3. So it would be undevelopable. Which again, if Olmsted wants to come back from the dead and design it for us, that's great, but
the dog park.
yeah. Ew.
When Jack is chair.
Yeah, you can design the dog park next time.
Do you have a dog?
So,
I wish.
Oh, do you want mine?
You can take mine too.
so we have a motion on subsection 10. So additional, and there was a second on that, right?
Yes, Joan.
Additional discussion?
could get there. I might not be there yet personally, but just,
Is it the character or the scale? Because the scale will never get there at 5
no,
stories
I
if it's...
think there's a lot that can be done with the character. I mean, just those couple, think about the windows. I mean, just little things.
You're still concerned about the top.
Yeah, I think we can, I don't know.
I see that as 7.3.15.5,
I think it's,
the windows,
I think it's not
which is
a
design
simple
review
thing.
guidelines.
Well, I think we can do it at one point so that the architects aren't continuously revising and dredging up, more time. I mean,
Are these details that we leave to the design review committee to work out with them? I think
So to be clear, there are two different sections here. One of them is consistency with character and scale of the surrounding buildings, and the other one is consistency with design review guidelines. I made my motion based on
the first.
character and scale of the surrounding buildings, and I limited it by its designation as a PUD. I think all of this is valid for the next section, with its consistency with design review.
I don't think it's going to be a holdup, but if I'm not there, but I think we're getting there.
So I want to be clear that one of the conditions was looking at the top floor or the top 2 floors post special permit approval. It was not, just so we're clear, not looking at the windows on the outside, not looking at a number of things. It's not to say that the developer might not say, yeah, let's just change these windows, but that's not one of the things that we sort of said, which doesn't mean it can't be, but it's not where we were. We said we wanted to be able to look back at the design of the 5th and 6th floor. They're amenable to that. And, we're talking about color design, but we're not talking about like slash the whole thing and like, make it a 4-story building. So I want to make sure that we're not saying, oh, we think that we're going to come back and change the windows on this, because I'm not sure that that's something.
So I think on the next section, which is the consistency with design review guidelines, we could take the staff notes and make that the condition on that, because the middle section, which with your headache in the hour might be blurry.
I can't see any of that.
So I think it's listed as a staff notes column. It's long, so settle in, get some cocoa. So prior to issuance of any building permit, the applicant shall submit revised roof design plans for the top 2, now 1 floor of the building for review by a subcommittee appointed by the planning board and consisting of representatives of planning board, design review, historic. The scope of the review shall be limited to roof related to architectural details, materials, colors, and finishes, shall not alter or modify the approved building height, massing, floor area ratio, footprint, or any other aspect of the project except roof design elements. The subcommittee shall provide a recommendation to the planning board for final review and process. The review shall be completed within 90 days of submission of a complete roof design plan unless extension time is agreed upon in writing by the planning board and the applicant.
Thank you for reading that. So you made a motion regarding section 10.
Right.
And it was seconded. I'm going to call a vote on that one.
Yep.
That's contingent on those staff notes, was it?
So I definitely think those staff notes should be a contingency on 7.3.15.5.11.
So let's do it there.
But we haven't had a vote on 10
No,
yet.
so we're going to call, I'll do a roll call vote. Carrie?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Nick?
I'm going to say no, just for the reasons.
John?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, so that is 4-1 on section 10. So that moves us on to section 11, which is perhaps more apropos to the that long section you just read for us.
Yes, and so in meeting consistency with the design review guidelines, we might want to amend the staff notes to make sure that we don't limit ourselves just to the roof design, because the windows comment would not fit under this particular condition. And the subcommittee was meant to review, I think, I think it would incorporate comments from design review. I mean, I think in general, the building is beautiful, but if they end up with tweaks to the roof or the windows or can you move the thing to the, I think we should allow.
There always are small changes like that.
Yeah, and I don't want to limit
Even in
us.
approved buildings, there are tweaks like that we're not going to see.
I just don't want to box out that discussion because we were a little too prescriptive in this section.
Yeah. I can see what you mean about the windows. On the flip side, just to be clear, I kind of like what it looks like, but I also see that point, so I'm not like married to either side. So if all of a sudden the windows look different, I'm not trying to say, oh my goodness, let's vote it down, nor would I say, oh, that's so much better, let's vote it up. So I'm like not married to either side. So I'm happy to, if somebody makes such a motion, to include that prior to issuance of the building permit, that will include limited to roof-related and windows.
So I think we would
just like an example. I wasn't trying to be definitive.
Okay.
Exactly, so
No.
I mean,
but if that's what we have to do.
I think instead of the scope of review shall be limited, it would be the scope of the review shall include roof-related architectural details, and maybe just like expand that somehow.
what I don't want is another 90 days of, this is another review to.
Oh, no, I know.
You know, basically, we approve this project, or don't, but let's assume we approve it, and say, well, but actually, you're not really approved. You got this another 90 days where you have to come and jump through
Right.
another. This originally was because there was, you know, we didn't have the materials for the roof. We hadn't seen it. It's not copper.
Right.
It might be the uncanny valley of not looking right. One of the members of the public even mentioned. It's not clear what it's going to look like, so this was going to give an opportunity to do that. What I'm worried about personally is that we just say, well, this is an open chance to have another 90 days to.
Are you worried about the possibility for an extension?
No, I'm more worried about that we approve a project, but it's not really approved. It's approved with basically a whole nother set of hoops to go through, as opposed to a collaborative process to make the top floor look best. Because when you said windows, I'm happy to include that. If that's just one aspect of things, then is it windows? Is it mantles? Is it sills? Is it, you know what I mean?
I mean,
fair.
I don't know yet. I mean,
fair question.
You know, it's kind of not the thing you do, and you don't want to do it drips and drabs. It just becomes a headache.
Yeah. No, I get that. So I'm not discounting what you're saying. I'm worried that the developer is now going to say, well, now we have a new approval process we have. And that's not what I don't think that's fair.
I agree with you. Yeah,
I was just trying to
I'm
add
not sure.
scope.
You may be right, and I'm not sure how to approach this to allow for continued input by the town.
And this concern was bigger when it was two
stories on the top.
But it's not. It's feedback that I don't want us to stop hearing. People do still want to see a roof that they're excited about. We do still have outstanding questions about it. I just don't want to. I think all we need to do is include roof-related architectural detailing.
Yeah.
Instead of limited to, just in case. I mean.
Shall include roof-related architectural detail.
I mean, everyone is advising the planning board, so if it becomes a delay and kill scenario, we can proceed. I think there's motivation to move this project forward. I think we've all been looking at it for like 9 months. If we're not in love, we're never going to get there.
Yeah. Well, I think it looks great.
We're all expecting to see it
but
at
there's,
this point
you know,
when
we're
we walk
5
out.
people, and I think the
But we
building-
haven't heard much negative feedback on the first 4 stories. So it's mostly roof, but I just don't want to. It's a good eye. Nick has a beautiful eye for architecture. I mean, if he picks up on a window detail, I would miss. I don't want to.
What if this condition also included the subcommittee may also make recommendations on other design aspects in collaboration with the developer? Because they might sit in a room and they're looking at the 6th floor and they say, well, these windows look good, and they talk about it and they say, yeah, let's change the windows. But it's not a condition. Like,
right.
90 days from now, if they've come back with no, like, they haven't worked out what change the windows we have are the windows we get, as opposed to this is understood that there's going to be some mutual agreement on this.
Yeah, and I mean, a ton of it is cost, inventory, and fit.
I don't know. I just, you're saying that we're not going to have any input if it's not in here. I mean, or we might not.
Well, it's not that we won't have any input. It's that again, without the risk of reiterating myself, I don't want it to be another design review to start over again. The goal of this was very specific in that everybody said that fifth and sixth floor looks terrible. Some people said that. I don't think it looks terrible, but some people said that. It's like, so let's not spend forever designing it in committee. Let's let some people work on making sure the color's right. Maybe it should be brown. Maybe it should be curbed slightly differently.
What about the subcommittee shall provide this and any other recommendation to the planning board for final review and approval?
That sounds good.
Sure.
I just want to say that I think that this is a good conversation, but 7.3.17, the materials and the color and all that is just a part of the design review. I mean, we're also talking about silhouette, street walls and setbacks, massing, scale, height, parking, off or mix of land uses. So, and to me, I really appreciate Nick's point, but to kind of counter it a little bit is, what if the developer comes back 6 months from now and said, well, we tried to procure the windows that you wanted, but they're not available, right? So we're going to have to come back and review them again. So I think it's reasonable, and we have a standard condition that we've used on all of our other projects, which is when final materials are selected, they come back and present those. It's not necessarily it's a little bit less than an approval process, but they come in and they say, these are all the materials. This is the brick, this is the windows, these are the colors. So you have that opportunity then. But I think that you should also be focusing on some of the other parts of 7.3.17 in this, not just the materials, but it is an important part.
The reason I wasn't focusing on those is I feel like all the other aspects we have been talking about nonstop. A mix of retail, housing, I mean, those were parking, those, I feel like that's been our bread and butter of what we've been talking about.
But I think Taylor mentioned some other things that we haven't been talking about at all.
Yeah, I'm just worried that
Whatever it was
this,
he mentioned, we haven't talked about yet, but we will.
yeah, I just don't want this to funnel us too narrowly through 7 through 17. Like,
Sure.
welcome to design review. You can only talk about the roof.
Good. Whatever that was that you had.
And any other recommendations.
I feel like we've talked about massing. I mean, we actually approved the FAR. Granted, it will be a smaller FAR now, but we approved a larger FAR. We approved setbacks.
All right, well, whatever we haven't done, we have to go through the list.
Yeah, we haven't dug into design guide. We are a good amount through that. We are a decent, we have a good head start.
We have a good head start.
Well, but we have time now, too, to walk through this now.
Yeah, go for it. Bring it on. Well, I don't want to, I mean, what do we have from design? Do we have detailed
No, we don't have
comments from
comments yet.
design review? We've had a couple of versions from
I think we need to have.
Haven't we received feedback?
but we don't have a 5 minutes.
Yeah, we have their comments.
When do they meet? So I do,
Don't we? Because we're not expecting additional.
Okay.
That I know of. I mean, they're always welcome, like, anybody's always welcome to, just like we review things for the ZBA. But any chance you can pull up 7.3.17 from the bylaw?
yep.
It's in, you can go to E-code.
Do 7.3.17. I will be narrating this evening.
Pardon?
I will be narrating this evening. 7.3.17.
Got it here if you want. It's pretty-
I've got them here too, but I just figured if we get them up there, it'll be easier. If you just, but there must be a way in this.
Who's driving here?
Again, if you go to ecode360.com, oh, that works too. I was just thinking.
See, Taylor, is this where we need to be starting?
What? For what?
For what are we doing now?
We're looking at.
Well, you're looking at,
Are we doing?
Yeah, there you go. It's just designing Winchester zoning bylaw.
yeah, so to approve the last part, well, to one of the last parts of site plan review, you're looking at the consistency with design review guidelines in section 7317. So you want to look through section 7317 to make sure that the project is consistent with those guidelines. And if they are, then you can approve that portion of site plan review. And if they are not, you can make reasonable suggestions to the applicant to have them revise their process, or you can make conditions to have them do it later.
Thank you. Sorry, it took a moment to get that. I think we've worked really hard to integrate the public and private realms on this site. I mean, I think that's one of the things we spent a long time trying to have public access. I don't know if we're there yet, but trying to have some of the commercial space be retail. So looking at basically the 5th paragraph here, this is one of the things that we, I feel like something we've been working on a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely reviewed the 2nd paragraph. Not quite ad nauseum, but close. Development in the public and private realm should be integrated as a positive, secure, and elegant manner as possible.
Yeah.
Secure? Any part of the perimeter of new developments that fronts on an existing street or public open space should be designed to complement and harmonize with the adjacent land use, planning or existing with respect to use. Yeah, I think it
You were able to make it bigger?
yeah.
I guess.
So I feel like most of the design guidelines are things that we've been talking about for a long time.
Yeah, I think we're there with the,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just,
Yeah. So open
somewhere
space.
along, and yeah.
So if we go down open space and circulation design, I believe we've met open space. We've talked a lot about sidewalks. It connects into the back to the bike path. We certainly have circulation design, but that's my pedestrian circulation. That's my opinion.
Could we just go up? We progress past the earlier part where they talk about go up to the top.
Top was sort of the preamble.
The principle. So the second paragraph.
And the windows are properly scaled. To your point, they may not.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I guess we just should think about this, and particularly the second paragraphs 2 and 3.
I mean, I think the roof level is the only, we honed it down to that. I mean, we're just trying to adjust the conditions so that if something, I mean, even if they go to purchase the windows they've drawn in and they're not available, we should be able to have that
That's true.
discussion.
We should have the discussion. I mean, I didn't use windows. The windows that I suggested were the ones that are already there, except they're on the Mount Vernon Street side.
Yeah.
It wasn't like
You
something.
said windows, we're not letting it go.
Right.
But yeah, that's why we were making it a vague, short edition and any other recommendations, just so that we don't pigeonhole ourselves. I mean, they're kind of doing this a little backwards because of the relationship with the bank. So if things come up, we want to be able to have that evolve. Did Brian just quit?
He's-
He just,
Yeah, sometimes I feel like doing that. When they're talking about something I don't care about, yeah.
you care about all of this, Nick. Every minute more interesting than the last.
So, are we done with the window mullions?
Is there anyone that's worried about the 24th of February as a potential future meeting date? Does everybody want to take this chance to check their
good with the
calendars?
24th?
I'm good with the
Okay.
24th.
I'm good with
The
that.
applicant is too.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I just have it, planning board question mark, 7 to 9:30 on the 24th.
For the record, in 2 more minutes, we would have gone to check on you.
Can't go to the bathroom?
We just usually, I looked up and you were gone.
I told John where I was going.
I assumed you had quit. I think we've circled back to the small amendment to allow other recommendations is good. And the 24th works for everybody.
Okay.
It was a productive bathroom break.
Wow. Wow.
Yep.
I know.
See what happens?
So, wait, so what did I miss?
It's all set.
Wait,
I think we need to go back to where we're making the motion. And we are making a motion to approve section 7315.5, section 11, with the condition that, do I have to read the whole thing?
No, you don't need
No.
to do the
That, with the small edit that the subcommittee shall provide a recommendation to the planning board on this or offer other suggestions, shall provide a recommendation on this and other suggestions to the planning board for final review and approval.
this is for section 11 we're talking about, because we already...
Section 11, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Was that motion made already, or are you just making
She
that?
just made it.
Okay, is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay, John got that one.
Any additional discussion on that? Oh, this is great, I'm leaving more often, I come back here. I thought you were just going to say it's all done. Additional discussion?
I think we beat that horse.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's,
Start on this side, Nick.
Wait, so are we voting on the amendment, or are we voting on number 11? Or
section 11 with the condition that,
Addition.
okay,
Okay.
well, it'll get passed anyway, right, even if I don't.
Well, if you vote how you vote how you
you never
want to
know.
vote.
Every vote is like a little surprise.
Well, I still think it's not quite there yet, so I'm just going to say, I'm going to have the no vote, but.
Okay. John?
Yes.
Carrie?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The vote is 4-1 on that. So I am still uncertain. Remind me, did we vote section 1 or 2? I'm sorry, it's late in the...
12 is the last one. we
But
did.
no, did we
Opens
vote that in the end?
Yep.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So all of the site plan review sections have been voted with
No, you
conditions.
didn't vote screening.
Not screening.
Oh, that's the one we didn't do.
We will tie that to the open space
So I
discussion.
think that'll be part of the special permit review when we look at open space.
Yeah, we're inviting the applicant to lead us there.
Yeah.
right, so we
And-
vote
And
next
do we
meeting.
want to do we right now here want to give the applicant direction?
I think he's gotten an earful on this.
No, that in regard to that 20 feet may not be where we want to land. And
Yes, I would like to do that.
so,
Why don't we make so I don't know when the right time, or if it's appropriate to clarify this, but I know that the applicant is under some time pressure.
I appreciate that, and I'm trying to.
And I don't know what has to be completed by the deadline. So do we have to approve the full special permit? So I want to, if the goal is to fully approve the special permit on the 24th, I think we need to be very clear about what the homework is.
Yeah,
I
mean,
think
that's
you're
the
winding
goal.
up to that, but I don't know how broad to make my comments.
I believe that's the goal.
Okay.
Because we will not if we don't make that the goal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for
Doesn't
sure.
mean we will if we make that the goal, but there's
So
no
we're-
way we'll do it if we say we're just going to.
Yeah, this will be how we spent our summer vacation.
So I would like to be able to get there. We
Yeah.
just approved site plan review, so that brings us back to the special permit waivers and conditions, which is something that, and working out all the details on whether we can actually do this
Right.
with council.
Right.
And whether we like all of the, there's things that need to be worked out. So there's some homework for all of us to do between now and the next meeting.
Yeah.
I'd like to be able to prove it then, vote on it at least. But I understand that that might not be possible, and I'm sure the applicant would like it that as well. I think
Right.
they also appreciate that it might not be possible. I'm not going to look at them because I don't want to see them shake. But I
Feelings
think
to
they
like our-
appreciate that we're trying. I thought we might be voting on this in October. Shows how naive I am.
That's very sweet.
A long time ago. I feel like I'm much older.
Me too.
So I guess what I would like to be able to do is give some direction so that when they come back with planting and screening, they understand where
Okay,
we
so
would
if-
like to land on that.
That's
Even
what I
if they
mean.
don't want to start there, but
If
so
we're,
there's-
if we're trying to wrap the whole thing up, then some of the things we will need to consider for open space will definitely be where we're delineating the private space from the public space, how we are sharing the weird angled parts, and whether or not it is. We have seen in the documents so far that there's a willingness to put in the condo docs that it is to remain in the public realm. The open space that falls on the private land is to remain in the public realm, but I would like to have guidance on whether it's possible to create a covenant around that so that it has a little more durability beyond the condo docs. If it doesn't work out, I will go down swinging, but we have done that for a couple of properties. Elaine Vreeland has offered to be a reference point for other properties where we've executed that and how it's played out. She's a great historian for open space issues, so I'd like us to consider that. And
is that
then
also a question for town council ultimately to look at?
it's a group project. Whoever would like to put their hand up is welcome to take the assignment. I know it's not me, but that's something that I think we should
I
make
simply
sure.
want it done right,
Right.
and I don't care what method is used to get it done right.
I agree with that. And then if what we have to do for easements, if somebody wants to mow the lawn, like how do we make sure it's fine if they mow the whole lawn and not this weird triangle that's not theirs?
There's a triangle, I don't know if we have easy access to it. There's a part of the land that's actually town land.
Right. It's a very weird line, so we just don't want to.
Seems unlikely that the owner, the condo, would say, we're going to leave that, we're not going to just continue cutting that small little piece there, but we also don't want to give them that ownership of that by some eminent domain because they maintain it open and notorious, and we don't say
Right.
no, so we need to do
Right.
whatever needs to get done for that.
And
That's
like
all.
to my
Legal
point
stuff.
before, if we decide all plantings must be native and it's more in the interest of the town than the condo, then we would want permission to plant and maintain a tree if that works for everybody, but the rights are weird. Those are just small issues that I
Those
think we should make
important.
sure we're very clear about.
Yeah.
So those are open space questions. You had talked before about whether we were going to put a recommendation for a fee sharing to the maintenance of the land along the Aberjona. And we have, I think, a memo from Elaine giving an estimate on the cost. I think the cap was suggested. It was suggested that that would be a fee split with the commercial space up to a cap of, I want to say, $5,000. And I think we have a memo from Elaine giving us the actual cost of the landscaping along that side of the Aberjona.
And we have a suggestion as one of the conditions from the applicant of a fee sharing that would result in, it's in the memo in here somewhere, I'm not going to find it. Yeah, page 10 out of 31 in the packet, which is, planning board has requested, I'm not going to read the whole thing. They have proposed 5% of the annual base rent generated by the mill pond facing the commercial space.
So not to exceed $5,000 annually. I believe Elaine's number was that the contract with Parterre is currently $10,000 for that stretch of land. So we just want to think about how we're going to do that.
And one of the things that I would, so we haven't had a chance to discuss this. I think this is actually a good time to discuss this. I'm uncomfortable with the not to exceed 5,000 annually because that means that would eventually go to nothingness over time because as inflation would eat into it, so that
And
the
that's
cost
her
of-
point.
The
The
cost
cost
of doing
of-
the maintenance is going to go up by some amount.
That's exactly her point.
So generally, I'm okay with this, other than not to exceed $5,000. because I just think that, that might be fine now. Maybe it's $4,000 now. Next year it's $4,500. 10 years from now, would be $8,000, but it's only $5,000 because of the cap there. And I think that's a reasonable modification of that. I don't know if they'll agree to that, but I think it's
Put an
reasonable.
inflation adjuster in that.
Inflation adjust is already factored into that because it's a percent of the rent, and the rent would presumably go up with some amount of inflation.
But putting the cap on it is,
But the cap,
we're just taking the cap.
I would suggest to the applicant that we mutually agree to take that cap off. But otherwise, I think this is a reasonable way to do this, and it sounds like it's a roughly reasonable area of number for what needs to get done annually. So, it sounds like
Yeah.
a win-win if this is the way we go, I think.
Yeah, and the last thing we like kind of as like the town family want to think about is like, where is that money going? Because if it goes into the general fund, but but then Concom has all these buckets, so we should just define where it's going.
Yeah, we want it to go only for the upkeep and restoration of the mill pond and the shore. We do not want it to balance the planning board budget as much as would be nice, but
It's a small detail, but I just feel like we're creating all of these like natural space like funds, and we just want to make sure it goes to the one that pays parterre, which I think currently is DPW.
Yeah.
But they're working on phase, so we just want to name the fund.
Yeah, agreed.
Now Nick quit. He's going to make a comment. Nick,
do we go get him?
we will need comments from Housing Partnership.
Yeah.
And then are we going to present, how do we get comments from the select board? Is someone presenting? How are we tackling that?
It would be me. I can reach out.
Well,
to them.
John and I were on the working group.
Happy
And
to
the
have you
ask
there.
is essentially, I am out of town next Monday through Friday. But if they meet
They almost
the
certainly
Monday
meet the following
before.
Monday.
What's that?
They almost certainly meet the following Monday.
Okay, the 23rd.
Yeah, they're not going to meet next week.
Anything's happening next week.
Obviously I would
The Housing
appreciate.
Partnership Board.
That's it.
Yeah, so,
Is John still there? Oh, there he is.
yeah, he's here. So we need their recommendation and quite a bit of work to cover there. The select board, why don't we take this a little offline and organize how to approach the select board?
Agreed. How to approach the select board. Looking at the conditions and the memo that they put again on page that there.
It's going to be very hard to get on their agenda because we're so close to,
Onto the select board.
yeah. We're so close to closing Springtown meeting deadline, so I bet it's going to be tricky to get on there with the override. So we'll try.
We'll try.
We'll do what we can.
And I'm still, sorry, you're still going.
No, I'm done.
I'm still not sure where we stand on 5, which is above, which is the restriction of the use of the commercial space along the mill pond to an eating establishment, cafe, or outdoor dining space.
I think we can cross off strip club and cabaret.
Those aren't even allowed in
Okay,
the
that's good.
zoning, so, a lot of those things couldn't be put there anyway. I don't think a flea market's allowed.
No more auto repair.
So,
We're stuck with the 23 options we have before us now.
I'd like to throw this idea out to the board of sticking to our guns on this being, and we can choose the exact language of being an eating establishment, cafe, which includes dining space outside. Well, we does need to say dining space outside. However, add in some sort of addendum that says if the owner is unable to secure a lease in some amount of time, they can return with a different potential use. So that because we don't want it to sit empty. They don't want it
Right.
to sit empty.
Right.
On the other hand, if the first person who comes there is, I'm seeing these.
It could be just by chance that it's not what we want.
Yeah.
And we're not encouraging it at all.
Encouraging it at all. And so it could easily end up being, I see these list of things here, so I'm anchored to this, but like something that's not here, like is the lawyer's
Activity
office not included?
centers, it could end up being like I feel like there are more and more places where you go do stuff. That seem
Yeah.
good.
So I guess what I'm
Getting less eloquent over it.
trying to suggest is, I get their apprehension against having this be limited to something.
Right.
Probably limits the amount they can make us on this space, and I don't want to do that. On the other hand, if this is the list we're looking, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to come up with a whole bunch more things that are excluded. And quite frankly, not to be rude, it probably would get to the point where all that was allowed would be an eating establishment by the time you did that. You know, I respect that I expect it, so I feel like a compromise might be that it still has to be an eating establishment or cafe, coffee shop, and if the owners are unable to rent it in a certain period of time, they can request a waiver moving forward from that at the time of rental, and presumably if it's been sitting empty for 6 months, we'll be the first ones to say, yeah, move. But there'll be some.
They'd ask for a waiver with the tenant in hand, maybe, you know, or without.
That's a good point.
I mean, they could come up and say, oh, no, well, we have this person they really wanted. You know.
But, I mean, I feel like.
They'll rent it in 6 months or whatever it is.
Otherwise, and I respect the applicant, there's not a strong mutual desire to get what we want in this area if we don't have some sort of mechanism like that. It's my opinion. I don't know, and you know, well, I'd love to have, you know, they're hearing us right now. I'd love to, not now, but you know, these are the things that we want to be able to wrap up because I think I'll return to. I think this is one, in my opinion, one of the most important conditions on this entire project. That for me, I mean, I'd way rather have this and have a 6th floor. So that's me personally.
I mean, sunrise brunch would be glorious at that spot. I don't disagree with you. So I think that's a fine adjustment to it. A restaurant, cafe, or you know,
coffee shop kind of thing.
Yeah, or
with some time period of.
I would support that. Are we?
They also.
Are you looking to vote on that?
No.
Okay.
I'm looking for. We were trying to think of the feedback we want from them for our next meeting, so that we could potentially vote next meeting. I'm not asking them to give their snap opinion on what we say right here.
Yeah, but there might be
constructive
some creative solutions to incorporate incentives that work for everyone.
Yeah.
They had constructive suggestions in the past around making sure that the space was remained activated by the community in the interim between tenants, and I think that's something that we could probably work with.
They who?
The applicant brought it up. They've done it in spaces before.
In between, I didn't remember between tenants.
Yeah.
Spirit Halloween.
We're resisting pulling them up here, but yeah, exactly. Pop-up shops. Surfboard sales, something seasonal.
Are there other things we need to be wrapping up that because it's now 9:30 when I promised we'd finish?
Nick, if you have design stuff that is going to be a sticky point for you, please write it up ahead of time so that they can address them at that meeting. Like, spend some time with it. You know, your keen eye picked up the windows. Like, don't spring it on them on the 24th.
I was looking out, you know, because it is, you know, it's a nice building, but I just happened to notice.
We love your eye for detail. I'm just saying, like, send it to them this week so that they have time to sort of let us know what's,
Okay.
Yeah.
So the question is, can all board members, well, first of all, can the applicant meet on the 24th? Yes. Okay. Can all board members meet on the 24th at 7 p.m.?
Yes.
In person?
Yes.
Okay. So we will continue this public hearing to the 24th, but before you make that motion,
At 9:30, well done, you.
I would like, if it becomes clear that that's the meeting where we're going to vote on special permit, I would like to open that meeting with public comment, a half an hour of public comment.
Yeah.
So that, what I don't want anybody from the public to say, you guys voted and we didn't get a chance to speak.
Seems fair.
If between now and then it becomes clear to me and the town planner that we aren't going to be voting, then we'll just go, we'll add public comment somewhere along the way in the meeting. I want people to get their last chance to speak on this project and no one say, I didn't get a chance to speak.
And for our millions of fans watching at home, I think it's helpful to point out that materials that are received between now and then will have an easier time being addressed at that meeting if we receive them in the next week, because we can share them with the applicant and let them prepare a response. So rather than the public comment period, I think the time between now and then, everyone has lots of homework.
I think that's a good point.
And that includes the public and other boards and committees.
So I would love a motion to continue the public hearing to February 24th at 7 p.m. in this room.
Probably this room.
Probably this room.
So moved.
Assuming that somebody else hasn't already reserved this room.
Time certain, location TBD.
Yes.
So moved.
Roll call vote. Nick?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. That brings us back to our regular meeting, the regular session, which I believe there was absolutely nothing on there. But I do, so we have no regular business. I do want to point out to the committee that we have scheduled, I don't know if, have you put in the, for the meeting on Friday?
Yeah,
Yeah.
should be good.
Okay, so we have need of a quick Zoom meeting on Friday for a single issue, which is to discuss and vote on approving funds for the consultant to look at site plan review and special permit review, which is the time constraint because we want to get going because it has to be done by the end of this fiscal year. So.
Is there a lot to discuss? I mean, 10 a.m.
No, there's very little to discuss.
Will it take more than 15 minutes?
I would hope it would take less than 15 minutes. My hope it would be 5 minutes.
Okay.
I'm laughing because you remember Diebs would be like, it'll be 10 minutes, hour later. You're still going.
We are
You are
going,
not Diebs.
We are going to basically vote to authorize, I guess, vote to authorize to spend up to $45,000 for the consultant.
Okay.
It was not enough.
So we're here now, and we're not hearing a lot of.
It's not posted,
Right.
so we can't.
Okay.
We
All right.
can't vote it tonight.
Pretty tight
We can't
agenda.
vote it tonight.
Can't discuss it either.
And we can't discuss it.
No, but I can tell you what's
But
coming.
you can tell us what's coming, and we
Preview
we
of
can know what's
events.
coming.
Yes. So that meeting will be on Friday, so that's our next meeting. It will not have anything to do with 10 Converse whatsoever.
Everything has something to do with 10 Converse. Only existentially related.
Sorry, I blew it by 4 minutes, but a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, WinCam. I think WinCam might have gone, but they're still recording. They were recording. And thank you, everyone, for coming tonight.